community, companionship. It's so important for our well-being, not just physical, mental, emotional, but also spiritual. But how do we get to that place where we can actually feel spiritually enriched and feel that well-being coursing through our bodies? Stay tuned and you might just find out. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Alternatively Speaking, where we talk about all kinds of things which are alternatives, but different ways of living, being, doing that can enhance our lives and ideas that might challenge us. And my guest today is William Bloom, who is very well known in spiritual circles, I think I can say, and who's written numerous books, including one called The Endorphin Effect and also The Power of Modern Spirituality. So very much up there in terms of spiritual things, as I say. And we are speaking today because William has, I think, co-founded, but he'll correct me if I'm wrong, something called the Spiritual Companions Trust. And they're even offering a coaching and caregiving diploma to help people who need that kind of support. So welcome, William. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, JJ. It's lovely to be with you, and hello to all the listeners and viewers.
And viewers, yes, thank you so much. Yeah. What was it that spurred you on to actually create this trust? I mean, when I look around, I see people who are really in need. Is that something that really got you thinking, yeah, we need something more than what's on offer?
No, not really. What actually happened was I've got three great things that happened in my life that propelled me forward with this kind of work. And just to say, I'm well known in a very small pond. So anybody who's not in that pond may never have heard of me. The first thing that propelled me forward was I was brought up in a kind of medical family. My dad was a psychiatrist, a medical doctor. My mum was a psychologist, journalist, and they were both atheists. And they were both quite traumatized by having just come out of prisoner of war camp. They spent 3 years during the war in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. But from a very early age, from 4 or 5 I can remember, I had a sense that there was some kind of spiritual dimension to life. I was confused of people going to church or temple because it seemed to me the blue sky itself was the most wonderful dome of a temple that you could possibly have. But I couldn't talk to my parents about it because anytime I talked to my parents about these inner things that I was experiencing and feeling, they would kind of look at me in a kind of condescending and patronizing way and go, "Oh, Dad, yeah, you know." So I was brought up, I was happy to be brought up in an atheistic family because nobody was laying any religious trips on me. But at the same time, I was having my own experiences. So I'm part of the modern world, and there are many, many people like me who have an inbuilt spirituality. They don't belong to a faith tradition. They may well have had parents that either dismissed them as being silly or parents who belonged to a faith tradition and didn't want to hear anything else. And I belong to that other huge section of society of people who have a sense of, yes, there is something beautiful and wonderful about life. There's a mystery there. Okay, some people want to call it God. Some people want to call it a great mysterious ocean of benevolence. Other people want to call it the Tao or the goddess. There are many words for it. But many of us have that experience. And so I've been exploring that through my life in my own way. A couple of other big things that really influenced me that fed into the Spiritual Companions Trust and our diploma in spiritual coaching and caregiving. One is that I was a really earnest meditator for a while, Ernest Ernie the meditator. But hooray, I always came out of meditation feeling better. And I learned to self-manage my kind of sensitivity and emotions that are arising through meditation. And I always felt, as I said, better for having meditated. And one day I was watching a Horizon program on the people who just won the Nobel Prize for their discovery of endorphins. Endorphins being the hormones, neuropeptides that the body releases when the person is in a good mood or sees something they like. And I went, and the guy who'd received one of the Nobel Prizes with his partner was wearing a white coat and a clipboard and a stethoscope around his neck. And this was a BBC Horizon program. And he was very serious.
Very serious. Yeah, yeah.
An American academic. And he was asked by the BBC anchor person, what kind of people produce endorphins? And this is pretty clear. Endorphins, orphans, morphine produced inside the body, endorphins, right? Very powerful neuropeptide inside the body. He said the people who produce the most endorphins, this primary hormone of well-being and happiness, are folk. And he didn't like to say this, and you could watch him frowning. They seem to be people who have a kind of inner smile, right? A kind of inner smile. And I had a eureka moment because I went, the one group of folk who are trained and educated in an inner smile and developing an inner smile are meditators, because we're asked to have a soft and compassionate attitude to ourselves. And I put two and two together and I went, oh, so when I'm sitting there having kind thoughts about the world and about myself, and I start to feel good, one of the things that's happening is there's actually a biological, physiological thing going on inside my body, which is the production of endorphins. And I went, okay, there's the link between spiritual practice, mindfulness, meditation, and good things for the body. So I'm one of the flag bearers from several decades ago that went, hey, mind body medicine actually works. It's a real thing. Now, the third big thing that really fed into spiritual kindness trust was I ran a program at St. James's Church, Piccadilly in London several decades ago. And it was a year-long program in which I had a group of 20 people. And I said to them, let's explore what the different religious traditions do in their practices and what is actually going on inside us when we do the practices. Let's see what they have in common. And I had a couple of groups over several years exploring what are people actually experiencing inside religion and spirituality. And there was another eureka moment for me. One of the eureka moments was that Horizon program. Oh, endorphins when you do the inner smile. The other one was I was sitting in this circle of people and I posed an inquiry to the group. I said, in what circumstances do you most easily connect with, feel that there's a wonder and energy to life? And because I was Ernest Ernie, the meditator, what I was wanting was for all my students to say, meditation, sir, and get 10 out of 10 from me. But in actual fact, what happened in the circle was the first person said, well, when I'm sitting watching television with my cat on my lap.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, not necessarily the watching television bit, but the cat on lap.
The cat on lap. And then part of me died in that moment. As a teacher, that was not what I wanted to hear, right? Second person, when do you most easily connect with the wonder and energy of life? And it was, well, on my exercise bike. Third person, out in nature. Fourth person, by the ocean. Fifth person, listening to music outside and birdsong, right? And by the time we'd gone round this circle of 20 people, I went, okay, I need to deconstruct my Ernest Ernie ideas about how people connect with the wonder and energy of life, right? And I need now, from henceforth, the most important question to ask people when they're exploring spirituality is, for you, not forget what anybody else has told you to do. Forget that you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or a Hindu, whatever it is. Just for you, when do you most easily connect with the wonder of life? And that's the beginning of a very real conversation with people. And I've sat in groups I remember once being in a kind of party I was actually standing with a rabbi and a bishop and an imam. It was a kind of interfaith place. And you could feel the kind of frozen politeness of the conversation. And I just said to them, I said, hi guys, when do you most easily connect with God? And the conversation immediately went to when I'm caring for people, when I'm in nature, and had very little to do with formal worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that led me to, because you phrased the very first question to me was I responding to a need? And no, I'm not responding to a need. I'm responding to what I think is actually an obvious fact and truth that's been lost in religious warfare. It's been lost because atheism puts itself in a kind of conflict with religion and spirituality. But in actual fact, in my experience, even talking to the most rigid atheists or the most rigid Christian fundamentalists, if you start with the question, actually, hey, when do you actually connect with the wonder and energy of life? And they'll tell you when and where. And then I say, oh, in the spiritual companion's trust, the next thing will be, what do you like to call it? And an atheist or an agnostic will say, well, I don't know what it is. And I would then say, well, funny enough, that's exactly what all the mystics of all the different religions say when asked what it actually is. They go, I don't know, it's a mystery, but mystery with a capital M.
Yes. Yeah.
So the spiritual companion's trust emerged out of that stream of thinking. And there are a lot of very nice, independent-minded folk who came in as colleagues and companions and friends to help build it, all of whom went, yeah, of course. And in the 20th century, now the 21st century, the way to approach spirituality is with this person-centered, individualized inquiry, but always with a sense that what people are going to connect with is something that's genuinely good and life-enhancing, and that there are strategies. For example, you find them in mindfulness and breathing and as psychological attitudes, which help deepen the experience of connecting with the wonder of life. So we started to teach that, and the diploma we run, it was originally being planned as a master's qualification at Westminster University, but we found that pitching it at master's level, that's postgrad level, meant that people were thinking about it rather than experiencing it. And so, which meant that they were kind of lifting off up into their heads and away from the kind of heart-centered sensation, feeling of what it's like to be out in nature and connecting with the wonder of life, or when you're caring for your grandchildren, or
defeating the object, really. Yeah,
it's defeated the object. It's went, okay, we spent 2 years working at putting a master's together, and then we just went, no, this is not going to work, because everybody's going up into their heads and basically dissociating from an embodied real experience. So we then went the other direction, which was, let's make it a vocational course, that's practitioners. And we went through all the due diligence that needs to be done to be on the Ofqual register. So the whole thing is 100% kosher. It's real.
Yeah.
And the course itself, it's saying, yes, we're training folk to be spiritual coaches and caregivers, but you can't do that unless you yourself know how to look after yourself in the first place.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
And we will model to you how to help people into that, and we start with that question I was talking about a few minutes ago, which is, when do you most easily connect with the wonder and energy of life? And I've had situations where some men have said, I never connect with the wonder and energy of life. And I say, just close your eyes for a second. And what's your favorite sport? And you suddenly see a little smile come on their face. And I go, where are you? Oh, well, the golf course. I'm watching rugger, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
Because everybody has their own way, but they're not, the way religion is set up, it's kind of, here's a set of beliefs, get in here, you've got to believe in Jesus, so you've got to believe in, repeat the Quran, you've got to repeat these prayers, or Buddhism says you
so rigid. It's so rigid.
It is, and even though the very liberal-minded inside them can be very loose and very big-hearted, they haven't adopted this way of inquiring. Though some of them will, some of the traditional retreatants, the monks and the nuns of all traditions, they know very well just to be very quiet with someone and say, hello, well, they may use language that's a bit confusing, like, when do you feel God? And people go, God, I don't like the word God. But that's how it all started. So the course itself is, a lot of the focus is on, okay, let's get you sorted. Yeah. And that means we spend a little while making sure everybody's doing what works best for them, and then make sure they do it every day. So it actually anchors in as a health benefit for them. And they come up against their resistance to it and all that kind of stuff. But they're in a lovely support group of people who all of us experience that kind of, it's like giving up sugar or stopping coffee, get into a daily routine, And as we go through the course, because they have the experience and we're looking after each other in a way, and there's a lot of reflective writing about how's this going for you, right? And people come out of it usually quite a cool cohort of friends, actually.
It sounds really lovely. It sounds fantastic. And I love the distinction you made actually earlier on about what brought you to it, how you came to do this and create this course and the trust. So it all sounds fantastic. It sounds like absolutely something that people might be really happy to get involved with, especially anybody who's caring about the world today and the people in it, and helping people deal with health issues and life issues and everything that can bring a person down in terms of well-being, mental, physical, spiritual, and in every way. So then the trust is the spiritual companion's trust. Who is, I suspect that you're going to give me a sort of a very sort of wide answer here, but who is the trust aimed at helping? Are you going to say everybody? Probably.
No, I might do. I think we've got two groups that we have in our hearts and minds. One is all those folk who instinctively have a sense of the spiritual dimension of life and are looking for an open-hearted, open-minded approach to develop and deepen their practice.
Yeah.
And who know that part of spirituality, there's a very strong dynamic to care for others. And that will manifest not necessarily in being a carer, either professional or volunteer, but that will manifest in being a good neighbor. It will manifest in being kind to people when you're in a difficult queue at the supermarket. There'll be people who have an instinct for caring and also have a sense of the wonder and magic of life and spirituality, and they want to deepen it and inquire more closely into it. So that's one group. And then coming out of that group, they are able to be in almost any situation with anyone who is, I'm going to use the word suffering.
Yeah.
And to one degree and another, we're all suffering in one way or another. But our folk know how to be with them with a very grounded, non-intrusive vibe of, hello, I'm just here with you, supporting you.
Yeah, non-judgmental as well.
Well, absolutely, but non-interfering as well.
Yes.
But being present to a lot of people have this skill already, and they go, no, I don't. And I said, I bet you might have been with a member of your family who was ill, and you just sat in a chair beside their bed reading a book. And just being there was a comforting presence. So that skill is built into us, and it's just becoming a little bit more conscious about that. And there's also a historical thing here. we're only just coming into a global culture. You know, we've had 2,000 years of religions in conflict with each other and still in conflict with each other. And there's this emerging movement of folk who are spiritual but not necessarily religious.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual but not religious. And it's a growing movement. And if we were to fast forward 100, 200 years, this movement of spiritual, not religious, will obviously be huge. I mean, it's already 30, 40% of the population, according to various polls, right?
Yes.
But it's not organized. It doesn't have places of worship, all that kind of thing. So we are an early part of the movement that creates some proper space that represents spiritual, not religious folk.
Yeah, and I consider myself to be that person, spiritual but not religious, and always have been. And my parents or my father would not allow us to be christened, baptized when we were younger. He said if they want a religion, they can choose it when they grow up, but I'm not going to impose one upon them, which I think was an incredible thing to do in the 40s and 50s. It's not for me, but I do care for people and I do want people to be well and thrive. So yes, it's absolutely that place of embracing everybody and saying it's not about a doctrine, but it's about that internal desire to create something more beautiful for people. Yeah. And so, and people do need a lot of help these days, I think. And that was one of the reasons why I asked you the question first. People need a lot of help these days because there are a lot of challenges right now for a lot of people, health-wise and otherwise. And so I think the need for this is huge right now. And, I'm sure that it's something which you will be getting a lot of inquiries about. Have you already found that?
Yeah, it's building, absolutely building. I think, you talk about the challenges, but there's some good news in universities and this area of scholarship is that there's over 3,000 peer-reviewed academic papers that point out the health benefits of spirituality. There's the Center for Spirituality and Healthcare at Duke University, is where most of these papers are collated and organized. And there's a huge body of evidence for the health benefits that people live longer. And a lot of it's to do with life is very confusing for a lot of people. And the usual ambitions for money, status, clothes, posh home, posh car, posh partner, or whatever it is, all that stuff, there's a certain point where people deep in their hearts go, that's a bit hollow. And when I'm facing the normal challenges of life, it's that just to become more successful just doesn't hack it in terms of, but if you have a sense of the spiritual dimension of life and you have a sense that life is a journey in which we, all of us, in one way or another, are becoming just a little bit wiser, a little bit more loving, a little bit more aware, a little bit more compassionate. That's the journey. And that's what gives our life meaning.
Yeah.
Then that thread of meaningfulness can carry us through many of the crises, because the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune are going to hit all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're all going to be ill at times. We're all going to have disastrous relationships at times. Most of us will have financial problems at times. Most of us will, especially will have high anxiety when getting a new home and all the rest of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as my mum said about having children, have children, lose peace of mind forever.
Yeah.
But if in the middle of all that you have this sense of no, there's a wonder and energy and mystery to life, and the real thread of my life is on planet Earth is kind of an education where I'm learning to be more loving, more present, more grounded, more compassionate. And I think one of the elements I want to bring in here also that we haven't mentioned is that I think in the spiritual, not religious group of folk, millions, there's a curiosity. There's a sense of curiosity which says, well, actually, yeah, okay, I love Jesus, or the Quran is deeply inspiring, but my heart, my soul, my mind is curious. I'm like human creatures, we're curious. We like to sniff around and look at new things. And it doesn't help that historically religions have said to their adherents, no, you're not allowed to look around. No, don't sniff over there, because if you do, we're going to, we'll have to exorcise you or even burn you, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Nowadays, we live on a global village where we've got access to huge amounts of information and culture on television and through the web and on our smartphones. Just like everything's there. So to get fixed in one particular rigid place may be a very safe and good place for some people, hooray, but a lot of us have a curiosity. We like to kind of scope it out.
Yeah.
What's life really about?
Yeah, and I've noticed more and more people are questioning things that have been laid down for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Because people are curious, and new information's coming out, particularly in religions and that sort of thing. And Christianity, I've been actually personally watching a lot of work about the true interpretation of what might have been written in the original texts of the Bible. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And yet, there was a time maybe not so long ago when even to mention that would have had somebody cancelled and, really shut down. But now there's a lot more tolerance for it, I think.
Yeah, I think curiosity is one of the very best human instincts. Yeah. And to have that shut down is not good for individuals, not good for society.
No, any kind of shutdown or lockdown is not good, I think, for society or individuals. But that takes us on to something else, which is not what we're talking about here today. But actually it is what we're talking about here today, because companionship, you've called it the Spiritual Companionship Trust. So you're acknowledging, I guess, how important that is, coming together with other people.
That was partly the motivation for using the word companion, but there was another motivation actually, which was that this is an interesting area actually. I'm hoping you and your listeners will be interested, right?
I'm sure.
We'll see, won't we? The relationship between a priest and a member of the congregation, or between a healer and someone who needs healing, or between someone who's a chaplain and someone who's seeking spiritual advice. There's a power dynamic in there in which one of the folk is slightly higher up in the status and the other is a supplicant and of lower status. And that's built into the hierarchies of most of the religions. And the further up the hierarchy you go, the bigger the hat and the more magnificent the robes and the more lowly the poor little person in the congregation. So one of the things we're clear about is that there's a wonderful tradition in a lot of religious approaches where that essentially when you're helping someone, the best way to do it is just to be a friendly companion. Without that power dynamic of, hey, I'm here to help you, right? It's just, I got some information that may be of use to you. And with a bit of luck, I've got a good vibe. My heart is open and I'm a good support person for you, right? And you can unload if you need to, but I'm not a psychotherapist, and I'm not a priest, but I'm someone who, in my own life, I'm exploring the wonder and energy of life and finding out more. I'm curious, and I'm here in this moment with you. I'm still quiet, I'm listening, I'm your companion.
Yeah.
I'm your companion. Yeah. And good parents and good friends absolutely know how to do that for each other. Don't fix someone. You're very careful with the conversation because you know that you may trigger something. Just be patient, very patient. And
yes, it's allowing somebody to just talk about how they feel. I interviewed somebody recently. She has been on my radio show, and we were talking about trauma and how a lot of us don't actually deal with trauma because we're never really, we might be asked how you feel, but you're feeling just pretty awful, right? You can't even articulate what it is that you're feeling. But if only somebody had sat down and had a chat and said, what's going on then? What's happening then with you? Where's all this come from? What's been going on in your life? And then just maybe, you'd have been able to unload some of this that a lot of people keep with them for many years in their life sometimes. And it holds them back and it causes all sorts of problems. So it is that lending an ear, which, I agree with you, is so important, but not in any judgment, not in any kind of, I am going to help you and you're going to do this and that'll make you feel better. No. In just a very kind of gentle kind of, I'm here to hear you and hold your hand as you go through this. And I think that is hugely important.
It's hugely important. And I would like to add on to that, and we do it in our training, and at the Spiritual Companions Trust, that in the training, we actually go, yes, all of us have a mammalian instinct to care for somebody who's vulnerable.
Mm.
And there are awarenesses and strategies that can deepen your sense of empathy and compassion. And this might be absolutely crucial if you're dealing with someone who's in deep trauma or someone approaching end of life.
Yeah.
Or someone who's in a mental health crisis. It's more than the normal just being quiet. There's a way of learning how to practice compassion in action in a way that's invisible.
I like that. I like that concept.
And it's just talking about it is helpful for people, for definite. Our students, just hearing about it is good. And folk who are listening may just go, okay, William's validating the fact that when I'm just quiet and kind to whoever it is who's in trouble in my family or my friends, I'm doing something worthwhile. And what I would then say to them, and in that moment with your friend who's in trouble, when you're just being quiet and supportive to them, take a slow, calm breath down into your belly and just soothe yourself. And privately, inside your heart, open your connection to spirit, to God, whatever you call it, right? And just gently know that in the same way as you are, so to speak, lovingly holding the person you're with, the spirit, God, Goddess, is also lovingly holding you. And there's an extra, very beautiful atmosphere and energetic that comes through into the situation that allows for some extra healing and grace.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, lovely. I think that's, I think that is going to help a lot of people listening and watching this right now. This is going to help a lot of people. And really, I think it kind of brings us to a nice little conclusion. And so therefore, I would just say thank you very, very much for joining me today. Do tell us where people can find out more about you and your work. If you're watching this on YouTube, I am going to put all the links in the description. But do tell us where people can find out lots more about you.
Well, the main website is spiritualcompanions.org, spiritualcompanions.org. And if people want to know more about me, it's williambloom.com. But I'd much rather steer people to spiritualcompanions.org, where they can explore. We've got a lot of free resources up there, as well as the diploma itself. The next diploma starts in September. It's online, lasts a year.
Fantastic. Lasts a year, which is a good time. It's not one of those fly-by-night courses where you just kind of, go for a weekend and then suddenly you've got a diploma.
No, absolutely not. And you get good tutorial support and all that kind of stuff.
It sounds really fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much. Well done for bringing that to the world. And, hopefully people will sign up and let's create a world where we can all be companions to one another. So brilliant. Thank you so much, William. And, good luck with all of that. If anybody watching this wants to find out more about William, of course, all the links, as I say, will be in the description. And if you like this kind of video, please do like and subscribe and do all those YouTubey things that people do so that you can support the channel and we can bring more of these to you. But for now, from me and William Bloom, who really is well known, although he's very, very self-effacing in spiritual circles, from me and William, thank you so much for watching today, but goodbye for now.
Thank you, JJ. Bye-bye, everybody.